isolated. Do you think it's gonna be a full sweep?
I don't know. These AGL fans are very loud. AGL, let me hear you. No, this is a
days trapped inside, he keeps it.
What?
No joke, I spent $2.5 million on this private jet. And once you step inside, the 100 days will begin.
Oh my God.
And now that hour one of this 100-day challenge has started, I say we kick things off by taking it for a spin.
Let's go. Let's take it for a spin.
Just keep on doing what you're doing. It's going well.
All right, there it is. 1-0 to Gen G in this best of 5 grand finals for the 2025 Esports World Cup presenting League of Legends title. Let's send it on over to the stage to get into game number 2.
All right, Real, we've got a grand final on our hands. On one side,
this year, right? Like Vi has been pretty much permaban status globally until I guess MSI, where we saw some smatterings of it. And that's kind of what Gen G feel as well. The Wukong is what's going to be taken away from Tarzan here. And will it just be the Vi lock in? Of course, I think on red side, you feel a little bit better because you can pick a 1-2 punch with the Vi, you know? Like,
if they don't take it, then you get Viari, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so scary. I feel like it's mandatory because of that, right? You know, you don't want to give Gen G that 1-2 punch, and they will take it here straight away.
One of the best options into the Vi can be the Xayah at times, but we already see that Rakan was selected earlier by Duro, so that's Fearless banned. So maybe
Ezreal?
Do they want to go towards that Ezreal? You don't have to pick it here, but definitely getting something that has a decent amount of safety is a good idea. Senna, another choice if you want to get a big front line and then you have huge amounts of range and just try to play the scaling option and just try to avoid early fights. But that does mean that AGL immediately, even just after seeing these first couple of picks, could have some good early tempo in this game.
Yeah.
Fun. Shanks, what are we going to be picking here to round out the first round of picks here for AGAL?
Yeah, it just feels like we're already seeing these compositions take shape. Gen G going to be playing that, you know, backside, just protect the carry of probably the Senna and maybe something in the top lane that Keem could bring some more damage in. I wonder if he would consider something like an Aurora into the silo. We've seen that before. The Camille, also another very good shout with the Galio and offers you that bit of extra damage, because if you're only running Senna Galio,
I think you might want to just grab a support here or a jungle pick. They're going to go for the Ambessa instead. This is both a decent amount of frontline for the Senna, but also an aggressive pick into the Scion. I feel like Gen G would have been very happy themselves to get the Scion, because the mid laner here isn't a ton of consistent damage. It's just engage only, and the Senna would have been really safe if they had that Scion. So I think that's a nice pick away here, but it's a good answer from Keen.
Yeah, immediately gives you that extra bit of damage as well. It's a pretty aggressive composition already from the side of AGAL. Corki with huge amounts of damage follow-up as well from close and from afar, I think is a good shout, especially because the Corki stocks have been rising a lot.
Tom Kench, super obvious here just with how safe it is into the Vi Annie. Maybe a Caitlyn ban would make sense here, just simply because it's a strong pushing lane into the Senna, but we're really just talking about 2v2 here, as in terms of Kai'Sa follow-up to the dive, that's also an incredibly strong pick. Isn't obviously going to be winning the 2v2 lane as hard as something like a Caitlyn, but they do opt for that ban instead. I don't think we're going to see a Thresh here. You know, there's no other real safe pick for Duro to play with this Senna.
What about Blitzcrank is what we always just want to say when it comes to this guy. But the Skarner ban, actually kind of interesting, as of course we are still looking for Canyon's pick. The jungler already locked in, as Tarzan does have the Vi. But what is Canyon going to do as, oh man, Nocturne Galio. That's a little scary as well, as the semi-globals are continuing to pile in, because you got Dawning Shadow to layer on top of everything at the same time. So Gen G able to sort of turn on a dime to decide who they want to kill, and that just might be a Jinx at the start of these fights. A dangerous Jinx angle here, gentlemen.
Yeah, I feel like the Nocturne was in part to just deny the Jinx. Obviously, it can be really good into dive as well, just because you turn the lights on and then it becomes really hard to coordinate those fights and set up those Annie stuns after the Vi ult goes in, and then you can re-engage. But Jinx, so powerful in the lane, and if you get any pick onto any target, it doesn't even have to be the Senna, it could be onto an ulting Nocturne, it could be onto a Galio that gets caught, or an Ambessa who's just a little bit too far forward, then the Jinx will absolutely carry those late game fights.
Well, just have to see what the answer to this Braum is going to be from Duro. Maybe not a Blitzcrank, but we'll see where he is going to go. Don't know why, I've just got Robot on the brain at this point in time.
I really liked it in the last draft, but yeah, the Bard rising up a lot, and can be very safe into dive, and also can set up your pick potential if you do want to go for dives yourself, especially into something like Jinx. Got to be careful though, because you really have to get your setup before the Jinx gets excited, because if they get that pick, I feel like it all falls apart like a house of cards for Gen G. Like, the Bard's not going to be able to do anything. Jinx is too fast. You don't have enough peel, I would say, with the Nocturne selection, which allows you to go both ways. But yeah, I think the Bard is a good choice, but it will rely on Gen G having a lot of control before the team fights get started.
Based on what we saw from last game, that control you're talking about, Gen G knows how to get. They can wrestle it away, and when you have the double global Nocturne Galio playing through sides and shutting down this Annie, as we saw a little bit happen to Caps yesterday, shutting down the Annie or even just stopping that Scion from being relevant, already going to struggle a little bit in side lanes in this game, means that you should be able to dictate fights. But I worry about what happens, you know, if we get to a mid-game where AL is just ahead, if the Jinx gets accelerated, because you just don't have damage for Gen G, and you need time for that Senna to get her stacks online. So it's a really risky, yet confident draft here for Gen G. I think they were really making a statement here in this game, too.
Yeah, and I think they also need to get their combos in order, right? It wasn't as much of a combo draft last time around. It was a little bit more, we can kind of hand stiff you all over the place, find these angles and make those outplays. Whereas this time it's going to have to be layering of ultimates, making sure that they eliminate these key picks to start off fights. Because if Hope gets excited, then the Hope is going to end for Gen G here in this game number 2. But we'll just have to see how well they're going to play. Match point on the line for Gen G, and AL wanting to turn this into a best of 3.
Seeming pretty likely at this point, to be honest. I do really like what AGAL have drafted in this game number 2. I think it's very aggressive. It allows them to grab hold of this series and fight it on their terms. The one big thing on the other side for me that I'm scared of if I'm AGAL is Jovi's Galio. We were talking about how strong he was up against G2 just yesterday. It's It's a classic. It's a legendary pick for Chovy. There have been so many huge plays, even right here on this part of the map, for Chovy. The flash, like 5-man taunt that he got in that one game a long time ago. He's just fantastic on it. And I was going to do a segment earlier actually on Gen.G and the way that they love to team fight, and it really came down to Chovy moving in and out of vision and making the aggressive Galio plays work. So a lot of onus on him, but he can handle it.
Yep, and you were talking about his clear. It's terrifying for exactly the same reason, right? It's fear the cross map and fear the rotation that Chovy is so good at. Him and a lot of his other mid lane counterparts in the LCK known for that sort of style of play, and something that Chovy has really developed over the last few years.
I'm not, it's not the type of draft where I feel like the Bard ult is necessarily going to be game defining. It certainly can stall things out or turn a 5v5 into 5v3 for a minute for you to get into position, do some additional damage. But the ability to rotate around the map with a magical journey, I think, is super valuable for a low-range composition like what Gen.G's is. Sure, the Senna will have a lot of range later on, but a lot of these fights, you're trying to get your melees into position to threaten that Jinx or get to the back line, force the enemy to use her stun defensively. So that's what I'm most looking forward to here for Duro on this Bard pick. There's a lot of inherent risk with this pick, though, because if you fall behind, you're a squishy support that's going to struggle to get vision into this dive pop with the Vi that will just blow you up if you ever show your face. If you ever have face check, if you ever try to go towards an objective you don't have control of, there just really isn't a recourse for the Bard that's going to get blown up because he's so squishy.
Yeah, it sort of does feel a bit unforgiving as we have a look at where these lanes are situated right now. Flandre on this Scion having a real good time at this point in the game. I believe we saw this matchup previously and it didn't look quite this good for the Scion here at EWC, but still very, very early into the game, so things could certainly turn around for Keen, where he's going to be having a bit of damage onus on himself. Those are 2 items he needs to get to as soon as possible to make sure that he is going to be a threat heading towards that back line. And you guys have been singing the praises of AL's comp, and I just kind of want to echo it. I love how well it sort of bridges towards late game with the last few picks that they lock in, because it was quite late that you got the Jinx and the Scion into this composition, which allows them to teamfight really effectively, just front to back into Gen.G with their sort of fancy combo composition that they have here. Will certainly be still difficult, but it's just AL playing some pretty classic League of Legends and setting themselves up for it with some pretty good picks for the situation. Here's the lane swap. This is what we've got very used to.
Yeah, look at the timing of this. Hope catches this gigantic wave. It's just kind of almost funneled into him, right? It's like the Scion sets up a giant pushing wave into him.
Right after he gets a cull. He's
right after he gets the cull.
Into free cull stacks.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And he's just farming up there. He's having a great time. There's no threat from an early game Ambessa, of course. So these another early swap comes out from AGL. This one I feel like does make a bit more sense. I think you can absolutely bully the Ambessa a lot more with something like a Jinx compared to a Jhin into Cassante like last game.
Yeah.
And you've got Scion, who never cares about anything.
Yeah, so. And also if you're farming alongside, then you're absolutely fine, because Jinx wants to scale and scale and scale. You've got a Scion that's going to be getting infinity health as the game goes on. And so definitely a much better scenario. I'm glad you bring that up, because that is very, very important. Not going to feel as much of that pressure in these side lanes, as Gen.G will answer the swap now.
Yeah, I mean, you could have left the Senna into the Scion and just sit there and chill and stack, but you're not going to get any sort of advantages, and the Jinx is just going to get such a big advantage if you leave her alone like that, that it's super frustrating. And with the tempo they got with that fast swap and the call buy, they can go, oh, your Senna's back topside? Well, we've already reswapped bottom lane, and that's just going to continue. This is part of why we're seeing Unsealed Spellbook taken for supports these days, because sometimes you're going to need that teleport to get back and catch the tempo. Won't necessarily be the case in this game, but this time AL are the ones running the show, at least in this early game, whereas we saw that for Gen.G the previous game around, as Shank's going to get taunted.
Yeah, Chovy doing a bit of damage here. Otherwise, not too much else happening, and Shank's able to find a few extra Pyroblasts. Is Chovy moving forward? I'm not sure about this, because these autos are raining down on top of him.
He really wanted to push that wave in. He's not really going to be able to. Meanwhile, AGL is just taking a free dragon. This is a force. This is a force after the re-swap of the lanes. They have their bottom laners in the bottom lane, and so they're able to have that pressure on the Dragon and take the objective this time. So EWL this time in control of the pacing of this game.
Yeah, I'd be just really going to get a ton of value out of this. They're going to get a plate here as well for Hope off of this wave, and Keen just really has no recourse here. He hits level 6, but he's playing into a Braum, so the all-in just isn't a thing. He's not going to be able to do anything with that. You can see he's stunned by the concussive blows here already. And even with Kyle sitting on level 4, I just don't think Keen is going to be able to find an angle. And sure, on the top side, there's a little bit of push for Ruler and Duro, but it's just not the same amount of value into this Scion. He's stacking for free, but Jinx is stacking money and stacking a Drake.
Yep, Flandre also stacking himself. So there you
True.
go. There are sort of stacks all over the place here. Is Canyon looking to steal away some jungle? Will do so. Tarzan just going to move out of the way. Bit of an El Clasico as far as the LCK history is concerned.
Wait a minute.
Canyon and Tarzan, as Shanks could be in trouble. The exhaust comes down, and you know what he does? The walk quickly strategy, utilizing that phase rush to get into safety. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was a bit overzealous on the play. It's Annie who's got stuns, has flash and phase rush here.
Duro just really wanted to cycle through the summoners. It was fine.
Yeah, I guess so. At the end of the day, they don't spend a whole lot to do that. But yeah, unless you've got heaps of CC, you're not going to be locking down this Annie anytime soon. And it was just Galio at that point in time. Canyon is level 6 at least, so maybe he can look for a play soon.
Shanks was also so well positioned there. Like, he wasn't really vulnerable. You know, Canyon ults, he just walks around the turret, doesn't care. There's a really opportunistic attempt there by Gen G. And if this is like a Leona or a hard engaged support, maybe you could have made something happen with Chovy looking for the taunt, but instead Shanks is just like, all right, nice try, I suppose.
Yep, and so the result of this early game is one objective, one dragon going over to AGAL, and Gen G being able to utilize some of these swaps in order to get a bit of a farm advantage. That is about all we can really say. Most of that money is on Keen, who has done well as this Ambessa, but we know Scion doesn't necessarily need that much money. He will still just be a body that they can put in front of a Jinx to hopefully soak the damage so she can kill everyone, right? Like, we'll still do what it says on the tin, as we like to say. Void Grubs have popped up here as Canyon looking to get something done here towards this top side. Paranoia at the ready.
Yeah, I'll say that this Nocturne at this point in the game, you don't have a lot of setup. You can't really gank the Annie. You cannot do anything with the Bard in the top lane. So you're just level 6 and you're kind of just hanging out. Because you can't gank the Scion, obviously. So he would love to do the objective, but AL, again, they're in control of this river at the moment, and Duro's just magical journeying away from this fight for now.
If they can get in there, though, this could be a pretty good angle for Chovy. Canyon can place that gargoyle wherever he wants.
I mean, I just don't think Gen G really need to fight for these grubs at such a risky point in the game, because it could just open things up super hard against them. And if they get grubs, like, it's an Ambessa. If the Scion gets grubs or the Annie gets grubs, it's an Annie or a Scion, right? I like playing it slow like this, looking for the later TP here from Chovy, and just slow playing it. I thought for a moment they were going to try to hard force with a Nocturnal, which I think would have been a huge mistake. Just try to win the war of attrition with the Senna. Even in the early game, you can actually kind of just chip away at those health bars and win out, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Late TP here from Shanks, though. A bit late for the contest, but they could look for a big stun.
Well, Magical Journey just gets you out so comfortably.
Yeah.
So that teleport does come in. Shanks makes it over to the top side, but it is only one measly grub available here for AGAL. So after this one is finally taken, they will even out even the feat of strength count. Here between the two squads, and the gold is practically even as well. And so you look at the teams that have a lot of extra scaling, and that's both of these teams. Hyper carries both of these teams. And so I'm feeling like this is an even one at this stage of the game. Gentlemen?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Atlas. I think you're onto something here.
It's close.
It's a very close game.
I'm making the hot takes over here.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just don't think grubs are that important for either team that much. So, blowing the game and tossing it, flipping it, basically at this point would just be such a silly choice to make, especially with Gen G kind of slowly getting control there. was a late TP from, to enter the fight from Shanks there, and didn't end up leading to a fight because of the magical journey. You can see what the value of the Bard is there. But because he commits that, he loses a plate here bottom side, right? We'll lose some farm because he doesn't have the TP anymore. Keen getting an advantage there. So small victories here for Genji. They have a very slight lead, but this game is by no means really in their favor right now. We're going to have to wait and see what that first team fight looks like. The second Drake is up here. You can see Genji here slowly grouping down towards that bottom side of the map. Toby does not have TP to join the fight, but he can, of course, if he can traverse some of the map, ult in.
See whether he does do that. I love that little fight towards the top lane. It really did epitomize this whole game, which is pretty much meaningless damage and jostling for position. As Keen does get his fangs into Shanks here. Does do a decent amount in that trade. The Eclipse has been completed. A big spike, actually, for Keen on this Ambessa. Freshly teleported into this lane with that power spike. And Genji thinking that they can utilize that to try and take down this Dragon Ruler. Not able to quite find the snare, but the Dragon, it goes down. Yeah, double smite working out really nicely here as in goes Tarzan. And off go the lights. The public execution will avoid the cease and desist. And first blood goes over to Canyon, and it's not going to end there as the Braum shortly to follow. Canyon looking to continue this fight. His feats of warfare is Keen in the backline, and Genji, they just tear them apart. Chobi wasn't even there.
They didn't need Toby at all. It was just insane the way that Genji turned that fight around. I mean, you were just talking about the item spikes. Nobody's got an item here on the side of AGAL. It was an incredibly forced fight from our Chinese team. And on the side of Genji, they just wait, they turn off the lights, and the turn in the fight is unbelievable. Keen is the guy.
Man. He pulls the jungler away. Duro then isolates him. Duro secured the dragon with a smite before this, and it felt like AL just felt forced to make something happen here after giving the objective. They're like, well, we just can't simply give this up for free, but I think you just had to be willing to do so. Remember, Shanks lost half his health bar to the Eclipse in the bottom lane just moments before. They were by no means in a position to contest that. A huge mistake to go for that call, disrespecting Keen's reaction time as he goes unstoppable, looks for the exact re-engage he wants there, and the Duro catches the well played could that have been for Genji, and how much more risky could have been for AL?
Well, like, AL could have hit, like, Tarzan doesn't need to go for the only guy that has Unstoppable in his kit, right? Like, that's just, it's a little bit of a mistake. There was the only target presented right there, but just because it's the only target doesn't mean it's the right one.
Sometimes you gotta walk away. Sometimes you gotta say, it's unfortunate we lost this Drake, but we're gonna have to make a play elsewhere, and AL, we're just not willing to do that.
Yeah, and I really feel like AGAL had a lot of tools in their kit in some of these team fights. They have so much great engage, but as you mentioned, Max, you can't use it onto the Fed Ambessa. The one guy who's just going to turn it around, and that's what the Nocturne does, right? If they overextend, you turn off the lights, you make it really confusing, and then the counter engage comes in so easily. This is not great.
He's the one guy, and he is, well, going to get an ulti down, but that's 4 people, Kane. What did he mean by this?
Tibbers was there
I'm not
too.
entirely sure. Yeah, sorry, 5 people. Sorry, 5 people. Genji get a plate for it though. That's the trade. I'm going to say that's a trade in the southerly direction.
I feel like this was a good collapse there from AGAL, but at the same time, it wasn't that big of a deal for the side of Genji. Keen didn't have flash there. He's super mobile, thought he could get out, as we are going to see a Galio TP top to get the minions there.
Yeah, that's a red dot TP. That's not an aggressive TP.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine.
Yeah, this is going to be Flandre taking the opportunity to back here. He has a Scion after all. So money was picked up in the mid lane. Like you said, it's not an even exchange in terms of where the money went there. It was a big shutdown for Shanks onto Keen. But they're going to need a lot more than that. Just a pick on the Ambessa before anything is really relevant. Like, they couldn't turn it into an objective fight isn't going to matter. But still, every little piece of gold you can get is significant.
Very true. Once again, Keen just going to be face-checking a brush and loses out on that trade against Flandre. But Flandre not going to be able to offer enough in order to deter him from continuing to lane. So it should be fine here for the Ambessa as he moves down to put pressure on the bottom side. 1.5k is going to be the resulting lead here, but 1 objective away from feats of strength here for Genji. That will be a big deal. Those buffs do not go anywhere. Those shoes will be available for them as Ruler with his Static Shiv just going to park himself in this mid lane from now on. Make sure that the center is continuing to get these stacks. We can see 40 already accrued here by the 15-minute mark, as Duro might just be straight up dead. He flashes, he magically journeys, and he's unfortunately now stuck inside the pit. Chovy could press his R button, and he does get the Cosmic Binding down. Kyle now in trouble as Ruler over the wall, doing so much work. The Magical Journey is up again. I'm sure, never mind, it's not. It's a Magical Journey to the Death Chamber, and Duro just with a bit of egg on his face. Another one of these buds that just not looking super hot right now.
I mean, every single win that AL gets has a return by Gen G somewhere else. And
it's all a bait.
Maybe that was the grand plan.
That's first turret, and that is Feats of Strength going over to Gen G. So kind of worth a little.
Yeah.
I think if he gets out, it feels very worth.
I feel silly. I shouldn't have been talking down to Duro. He knew exactly what he was doing.
But at the end of the day, I mean, it's still going to be probably a turret to go down here on the top side for AL that will be able to get some of this money. And it just took so long to kill, but like Gen G get 2. It's the macro game again, just like game 1 here, where Gen G, yeah, maybe they give up something small, but they get something even larger.
The amount of objectives that were just bought by Duro being a little bit of a silly Billy in a Herald pit was kind of nutty.
Genius maneuver.
Yeah, something like that.
He's just on another level. We just do not get it. Look at this.
We're not going to quite get the charge, but turret also not going to help out towards Kyle here.
I'm pretty surprised, to be honest, that they commit the Herald top because they got the top turret for free, right? Like, they were going to just get it naturally, and then they wanted to double down because Dragon's up, which, by the way, also goes to Gen G with the bottom side control
also,
they had.
Shielding and healing with this composition, actually kind of legit.
They could have just tried to transition that topside play into a mid Herald drop to pull Gen G off of the Dragon or look for some chip damage to the turret. Instead, they just fully sent it topside, and then Duro's like, well, I mean, I do have this really cool ult, and I'm just not even going to let you get the charge. So very low value play, unfortunately, for AL, again, in comparison to what Gen G got on the map.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys were watching the first series of the day, which I'm sure you two guys were.
We were here, yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible how Kerio was able to just neutralize so many of the plays of G2 with his Bard, and I feel like Duro, obviously, you know, the bait play into the Rift Herald pit, maybe not on purpose, but it worked out for Gen G, and also he's doing the same thing, right? He's going to have his ultimate for these hard engages from AGAL. He has the Redemption. The Chemtech Soul is coming in. They're going to be stacking those. The heal from the Redemption is going to be huge, and from the Senna as well. It feels like Duro's game is kind of panned out. He knows exactly what he has to do in this game. As long as he doesn't get caught out in those weird spots, again, he should be just fine and in a great spot to help out his team.
Yep. Ruler also in a really good position right now. Rapid Fire Cannon now completed. Does have the Swifties done as well, so actually a lot safer than he was previously with all the extra movement speed, from his 2 first items and the shoes. As Flash actually has to be invested here by Hope, because he would have been set up for the Cosmic Binding after that ulti wears off. So Gen G really scaring AGAL right now.
That's your main target. You know, you were hitting the nail on the head. You're thinking exactly the same thing I was. Like, Ruler's on 2 items now. He's stacking really well. He's at 56 here at 18.5 minutes. Now your Jinx opponent doesn't have Flash.
Ooh, Spell Shield not quite working out here. Is Canyon going to be very early ulting? Heroic entrance to come down here. Is Canyon getting into that backline? And there's the public execution. The Bard is dead yet again, but they traded for the Vi here. Ruler not quite able to auto attack though in this fight as the Winds of War are so scary, and Keen wanting to kill even more of these AGAL members, but they are going to be playing it real slow, actually letting them kite back and just moving towards the next objective on the map, which will be Arakan spawning in a minute's time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, you know, there wasn't any objective on the map. Both these teams are sending all 5 of their members to join this fight. It feels like finally AGAL are stepping up to Gen G, who very aggressively try to take control of the map with their vision, as we saw in Game 1. And now we got Shanks in trouble.
He really is. Justice Punch going to connect as Ruler doesn't quite find the snare, but it doesn't matter because he finds the auto attacks, and that is going to be Chovy locking that kill down. They have overloaded the top side. Chovy takes a lot of damage, but they'll get another turret, and then they can move over to this Arakan. It's going to be up in 23 seconds.
The truth of the matter is, and we talked about this a lot in the draft, is it's a Scion on the other side, so he doesn't have agency to try to make a cross map.
I love that sign. It said revenge for T1, pick Bard, 3-0.
There you go.
But like, if you have Kyle and Flandre going, okay, they're stacking top, let's make a play there. With other champions, maybe you can actually stop Keen there. Maybe you can get something done. Maybe if he's not 1,500 gold ahead as well, but they just don't get anything in return. And this is these exchanges we keep seeing with Gen G, where they heavily commit to a play, and there's a trade, but their trade is a massive trade up. Even this play here, where it's a support for jungle trade, and they end up winning out on the health bar so significantly that it's hard for AL to make any play afterwards. And the Gen G fans are loving the dominance we have seen so far. This game was relatively close, but now 4,000 gold the advantage as Gen G set up for Otacon.
Yep, that MVP discussion, I think it's feeling a little bit more keen favored as we're heading through this series. This guy has been playing so well all tournament, but also, I mean, I had Duro there as like a dark horse as far as MVP was concerned, but I think there's no taking away from Keen after this game unless something crazy happens in the next one, or the one after that, or the potential one after that. If AGAL are able to grab a cheeky victory here or there. This game, not over yet, but feeling very much in Gen G's hands for now. Otacon has taken many teams, though. And so it might claim Gen G here unless they're very, very careful. Keen getting his ducks in a row here towards his bottom side as far as the wave is concerned. And AGAL, will they be able to get an entry? And will Tarzan be able to achieve the steal? This is indeed started.
Shanks is basically the main character for setting up that first pick here for Hope to get the reset. But Gen G have all of their ultimates, and they have a Nocturne composition. It's really tough for AGL to play this up, but they can't just walk away and go, well, we'll side lane. Not with this composition. So Gen G really have them here between a rock and a hard place. I don't use that phrase too much anymore, but like, what do you do, Kyle?
Well, you get taunted just a little bit here. He throws out the ulti. The door has worn off, but it did its job. And so Kyle is going to be alive, but maybe the Otacon is not. As Chovy just being a bodyguard here alongside Duro.
Feels like
Tarzan finding the brush. And yeah, I don't... Like, Chovy's so incredibly tanky. They're just not letting Tarzan get over here. It is still relatively healthy, and into the backline goes Flandre, but they hold him at bay. It's Canyon that's dealing with it. He gets scared. Is now the Dawning Shadow to lock down the Braum, and Keen just goes golden with the help of the Tempered Fate, and now they're in the blender. Now they're taking down an AL and just getting decimated. Fight after fight here in game 2.
Oh my goodness, that could not have gone better for Gen G if they had asked for it. That was incredible. Keen once again sets it up right onto Kyle. The follow-up from the Nocturne, and the Galio is there, and Duro's ultimate perfectly timed for Chovy to taunt them all and knock them down.
These Gen G keep-away comps are just so insane. We saw it with the Maokai last game, but look at this. They deny Flandre entry. Hope is so far away from any of these targets. So Kyle gets caught here, suppressed, right? The follow-up Galio ult on top of the Tempered Fate means double taunt, and then Hope, guess what? Now that he's isolated, he is destroyed. Sure, he gets one kill in exchange, but the whole team is wiped when he's excited. Down he goes. It's just Gen G crushing them, dominating them. The combos that you were asking for, Atlas, are we going to have to see them? It's going to be a little bit trickier to pull this comp off than game 1. And the answer is Gen G 100% can pull it off.
And I have to say, as far as compositions that utilize Tempered Fate well, this is a really good one, right? Like the Galio lands, you see doesn't get the knockups, but then you are freely able to position the easiest taunt of your life for after they get out of that stasis. The setup here, if you can hold them in position, is just insane.
And they don't even start the fight off with the Nocturnal. Most Nocturne comps start that way. They end it that way. You have no peel anymore, Hope. I'm just going to go right on top of you and kill you. The fight is already over. And Gen G now looking for Soul Point here. And taking Otacon, that felt impossible, but this, they won't even try.
No. Yeah, I feel like the Braum in this composition was meant to try to help the Jinx not get absolutely bullied like that, but I feel like when you have so many abilities and champions that just go over the top of the Braum and do not care at all about the Braum, like think about the Galio, the Nocturne, you're not even interacting with the champion really outside of being in melee range. It just feels like that Braum is falling very short. Maybe they should have gone for something a bit more aggressive just to really all in on that engaged composition. But yeah, you guys were talking about it. I mean, a lot of these champions go both ways. The Bard sets up either the defensive ultimate or it sets up the Galio perfectly. Same with both the Galio and the Nocturne themselves.
Yeah, and the start of that fight as well, just to go back to it again, like Canyon's spell shield to make sure that Scion is completely worthless. It's like they just have every answer for what AGAL are trying to do in this game, and it's making things really, really difficult for the LPL squad. 5,000 gold plus is going to be the advantage here. As, teleport to come in. Tempered Fate doing nothing this time, as there is the heroic entrance to also not find the angle, but in goes Keen, and Hope is dead. Flandre now just getting destroyed. Finds a nice double knockup, but Keen is just running amok. They are way too distracted in that backline, and even though a whole bunch of buttons go missing, it does not matter. Gen G is still just going to wander over to a Baron.
I mean, AGL is just trying to fight for Prio, and they're losing control topside. Toby's pushing their Shanks. It's like, I got a TP top to defend my turret. The second he goes, Keen teleports on the flank, and he's like, you guys want to contest for Prio? I am right into your backline, and Hope dies a third time in this game, blown up, unable to get excited, unable to be that scaling Jinx that their comp so desperately needs, and Gen G will take a Baron.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Duro's double binding in that backline after the flash from Hope, it really just snuffed out the hope of AGAL in that team fight. And yes, at this point, you know, Gen G, they pick up the Baron. They're very far ahead, but this was kind of the last hope of AGAL this fight. They try to throw everything at Hope, who does have flash, but look at this. Flash double binding, and then Keen from the left with his own TP gets the perfect angle after Kyle sets him up.
You know what would have been really nice is an Annie to peel there, but he went to the top lane and he was not there as Duro
is
not there.
very dead. Yeah, Canyon is going to press his R button as well as Mega Cone. Thankfully is going to be here. Shout out to you, Valdez. Utilizing that one for the disengage, but Duro wasn't able to do so. It feels like a bit of Duro giveth and taketh away in this game, and I think the positives do outweigh the negatives. As we have a look at the gold, it is cresting 8,000 at 27 minutes, as there is the engage onto Canyon. He's taking a fair bit of damage for Ruler as well. Oh my god, the stacks are really getting higher as Hope is looking for the reset, but he doesn't quite get there. The zap isn't going to land, and now Ruler is dealing with a teddy bear whilst also just murdering them. Redemption comes down. There's a flash in, and Keen says, thanks very much, buddy. I'll take the MVP now, as he picks up the triple kill after all of Ruler's hard work. And I think Gen G are going to probably add a Nexus to that one.
Well,
I think that's enough response.
Ruler is 1v4ing plus Tibbers, not caring, kiting it out, waiting for Keen to find that ult angle. He has flash as well. And so close to an excited Jinx were so many of those moments, but it just wasn't meant to be. And Gen G, their most dominant series of the tournament so far, maybe the last one, the one where they lift the trophy, now up 2-0.
Yeah, this is the best that they've looked all tournament long. And Gen G, one Nexus turn and a Nexus away from winning this, as there is the route onto Tarzan. Ruler is going to be able to take that one. Tempered Fate just to single out Shanks, as we have Senior Bear Tibbers, but unfortunately it hasn't done enough, as it's a triple for Ruler this time. The Quadra comes in, and he'll be able to take down the Nexus after one-upping Keen, at least after the last little skirmish. Gen G poised to pick up the title here at match point.
Absolutely crushing AGAL, and they're just one game away from crushing their key as well. It is just insane, the form that Gen G are on tonight. It is not a close series. We had faith, we had hope that AGAL's comp would be good enough that they could bring it back. We would be tied, and it would be a fun back and forth series. That is not the case tonight.
Absolutely incredible performance here by Gen G. It is time for us to take a short break. We'll see whether AGAL can pull themselves together, because it needs to be a reverse sweep from them if they want to destroy Gen G's key here. We are going to go to that short break. We'll see you again soon.
Shanks fan, how long have you been supporting Shanks? 你支持多久了，香克斯选手？
我从他中 WE 的时候就开始喜欢他了。哇 ，WE 的小卡，
真的是老粉了。那请问你是从哪里飞过来 ？Where did you come from？
我从重庆飞了10几个小时。
She came all the way from China, Chongqing, and flew for 10 hours. 谢谢，加油 AGAL 321，加油！
谢谢重庆。
Hi guys, Ginny here. Hi guys, Ginny here.
And I'm Finn. And I'm Orcs.
And we're here at the Riot Games Arena to try some games, have some fun, and see what's up. Ginny here and myself and Ox just went up against former retired pro player Finn from the LEC in a 2v1 to see whether or not we could beat him, and we actually could because it was pretty easy.
Who's banning? Banning? Oh, you can ban my champ.
Can I ban though?
Yeah.
Why are you tryharding? It's not an LEC match. I'm just gonna see what you're doing.
Yeah. For you? Okay, you're in there.
Ooh. Wait, there's no healing? Oh, easy.
Double healing? You can do that? No, that is not okay, by the way.
Oh my god, stop.
Ooh, that's a scary illusion. You just gotta care if he does that again. Don't care, Ginny.
I have flash now.
Don't care. Nice! Oh, there's no way we have barrier.
A little bit of a skill issue, I think. Well, I mean, I guess you didn't really play.
There's a lot of yappa right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's in mine.
Oh, this is so I can make light when the games are playing? Play!
This is epic. I always wanted an orange wristband.
Me too.
Does it light up?
Oh, wow. This is great, but I can't find the bathroom in the night. Is there different points where you hit it? Okay. If you have aggression, is what you do. Ginny?
What was that?
Okay, I was distracted by the Teemo, okay? Okay, that didn't even hurt on him, like.
It's not about hurting, it's about hitting the target.
Oh, that is a punch? I think that's a bingo.
Were you supposed to break it?
I'ma get
Hey everyone, I call myself a really cute Gen G fan. Please share with us, where did you come from?
I'm come from South Korea.
Who's your favorite player from Gen G?
My favorite player is Keen.
Do you want to show us your sign?
Sign?
Yeah.
This.
Oh, frog. It's a cute frog.
This is Jenna.
Oh,
Keen.
Oh, this is cute.
Yes.
Super cute. Who do you think is going to be the best player for this series today, Gen G versus AGAL?
I think it's Chovy. Yes.
Thank you so much. Best of luck, Gen G. Gen G fighting.
Fighting.
Sure, the center.
One win away for an EWC title for Gen G in League of Legends in 2025. They've looked like the best team in the world throughout the year and continue to do so as that fan is on the point. Keen has looked so dang good, and Gen G one away from making history. Welcome back to the STC Arena, everyone, as we break down game number 2 and get us ready for game number 3. Degon here alongside Meteos and Finn in front of this sold-out crowd here at the STC Arena. Let me hear ya! All right, let's get on into it. Game 2, different game plan in terms of the draft, Finn, but still same outcome as AGAL are trying to find any type of fight, but Gen G are just constantly finding a way around it.
I mean, you heard us on the desk. Game 1, we were a little bit disappointed because AGAL couldn't find avenues to actually attack Gen G, couldn't find avenues to engage onto them. So we said, okay, let's draft more engage, and so they did. But Gen G drafted even more engaged and went even harder in the paint. You see this draft by Gen G, full dive. That Nocturne Ambessa Galio combo made it so difficult for the carriers of AGAL to put out any damage.
Yeah, this was very reminiscent of their third game against G2, where they played the Ambessa Galio combo, and they just look so good on it. Shows that they can play more than just, like a slow dragon stacking comp. They can find really good engages when it's presented to them, and it was just awesome.
Yeah, again, the control around objectives was huge. One thing that you wanted to point out there, Finn, the Jinx pick early on, it was something that, yes, there's engage around, but the Jinx pick, very, very vulnerable to even more engage, as you said.
Yeah, so your 1, 2, 3 is already the Sion, Annie, and Vi, so it's not really a great peel. And then you see this Senna, Galio, Nocturne, and Bessa coming your way, and you pick Jinx. And I think if you do this, you kind of do need some kind of help to help her, like a Tam Kench, maybe they can eat you if they all go on you, but I feel like Hope really put himself in a hopeless position this game because there was really no way for him to put out damage to these fights because all these threats were coming from every single time. And if your Jinx dies in the beginning of the fight before getting any sort of resets, I don't think the rest of AGL's comp has the damage to kind of compensate for that.
Yeah, Meteos. I mean, if you look at Canyon and you're the Nocturne, you look on the opposite side, here's the Jinx and they have a lot of dive for our carry, but I don't have to worry about that. It must just be a play day there for Canyon.
Yeah, I thought that it was really clever by Gen G. They took Senna in response to Vi, which I think helps your dive comp, but also it makes it kind of a hard target for Vi to ult because, you can just press E if Vi's trying to ult on you and she'd have to throw down a control word to get vision of you. So it's a little deterrence against that. And then, yeah, I mean, playing Jinx into Bard, Nocturne, Ambessa, Galio, it's just nightmare fuel. There's literally nothing he can do if they all go on him. So yeah, that was pretty hopeless for him.
All right, I love that you bring up that Mbessa because that's where we go for highlight number 1 at the Drake Pit. Keen staking a claim to becoming this tournament's Sony MVP.
Look at this ult. He nullifies the Vi ult and dodges the bar ult. So the bar ult goes on the Vi himself, goes onto the backline of AGL, and with one button click, he has won the entire fight for Gen.G. So clutch. Really sloppy by AGL to just put so much into them best that they can easily use nullify all their abilities.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of these fights, Medios, are fighting around objectives. We take a look at the second highlight here over at the Otacon, and the setup around it has been so consistent, not only here at EWC, but throughout the tournaments here for Gen.G. They love setting the traps and forcing people to come fight into them.
Yeah, Gen.G just did a really good job proving for the objective, and then I like how Canyon used his W to block the Scion ult, and then as AL did try to come from different angles, it wasn't exactly what you want to do against a dive comp because they can just commit to one side. Scion wasn't there to peel, and then it was just unwinnable for them.
Yeah, I think you could hear there on the microphones. Gen.G has joined us on the stage and are ready to go. A little bow by Ruler to the crowd, who has been very, very impactful. But they're not alone. The AGAL fans have been showing up and trying to will their team to a win. And that means they've been trying to find a lot of these fights. But here in our final replay, again, just a little bit too far behind at this point, and it gets turned around on him, Finn.
I mean, at this stage, it is just a nightmare. You see here, Jinx, you walk up on the mid wave. There's 15 ults coming your way. Teleport, great flash Q by Kyle. Finds him there at the back end of that fight. And here you see them try to go. They try to fight back. But when you lose your Jinx in the beginning of the fight, all your hope kind of falters. And there's no way to get that reset. There's no way to chain those kills. And there's no way to kill the onslaught of Gen.G players clicking at your base.
I love that. You can see it behind us now. The AGAL players coming on to the stage, the gyos ringing from the left side of the stadium, trying to will their team to victory. AGAL, again, winning the LPL earlier in spring, trying to find and win an international title for an organization that isn't from the LCK, because all of them are currently owned by the LCK. But down 0-2, Finn, I feel like there's so much work they need to do.
A tall mountain looms ahead of them, but he who must climb the ladder must start at the bottom. They gotta take the necessary steps by steps by steps, and they gotta do things right. Against a Gen.G, you can't be slippery. No, you can't be sloppy. You can't mess up the steps, and you gotta really do it by the book. They gotta finish up their objectives. They gotta set them up right, and don't mess up your side lanes, because that is where Gen.G will fight you and punish you.
Yeah, these first two games have been pretty one-sided. Gen.G seems to have full control, but I think AGAL might have some tricks up their sleeve. I know Tabby's just a very good coach. He probably has some draft contingencies ready. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope they can punch back and give us some more games.
Love that you bring up Tabe, who's had a lot of success with different organizations in the past. We look at the RNG, we look at BLG. Any team that he's gone to, he's been able to elevate their level of play. He was able to do so with AGAL earlier in the year during the LPL run, which is why they found the success in their domestic league, able to bring it all the way to MSI, get them a third place and one game away from toppling T1 to make it to the grand final. Now they're here. They've been able to do it, but they are 0-2 and trying to battle back for the pride of LPL, for the pride of Chinese League of Legends. However, on the opposite side is the most dominant team over the last 2 years in League of Legends, adding to their hardware. Will it be the Esports World Cup for Gen.G, or will we have a game number 3 for AGAL?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And yes, Dagon, we will have a game number 3. Don't you worry. Unfortunately, I cannot guarantee that AL will be able to take the win. We'll see whether they can, as the reverse sweep will have to start right now.
Remember last year at League of Legends at EWC, we had a relatively shaky run for T1, right? They almost lost to Team Liquid. It was super close. They came into a finals against Top Esports, where a lot of people were saying, I don't know, Top Esports looked a little bit more consistent. And then we had that 3-0 stop. T1 crushed them. Faker lifted the trophy, got the MVP. And it feels like history might repeat itself, albeit with a different team here, in that Gen.G almost lost to G2. You could argue the series were close leading up to this. Sure, they were in control of Game 3, but had things gone a little bit differently, it was definitely a series that G2 could have won. And AL coming this were super consistent, and yet
Gen.G has the best performance of this entire week here of League of Legends in the series that matters most, and they're now poised. I think they're favorites to take this 3-0 if they can continue the form.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible how different they look today, and I think that AGAL, they need to go back into, you know, the players' lounge and think about what they're going to do to change things up here, because they have not looked like they are on the same level as Gen.G tonight. So you got to do what Chovy did yesterday and say, hey guys, we're not playing up to our form. We can do better than this. It's not easy though, because even to us, we are watching Gen.G and it just looks like they're unstoppable at this point. Maybe as some of the more comfortable picks for Gen.G get taken away, perhaps AGAL can get something going here in this round.
Well, that's exactly the time that it is. The Gwen is going to remain permanently banned. The Pantheon is also going to do the same thing, as there is that Skarner ban coming in. A lot of respect for Canyon's Skarner so far this tournament. And Wolf, you brought us back to what happened last year at EWC. It was a very disappointing tournament for Gen.G. I think a lot of people probably even forgot they were there because they left so incredibly quickly. Yeah. This time around, something to prove. Saying, no, this time, this year, it is ours. And assuming, one game away.
Assuming they win that third game, Keen is definitely the front runner for MVP, I would say, for this finals. And he was the one who said he was most disappointed by their performance last year. So a lot of storylines colliding here. And AGL, they were so close to moving on to the finals at MSI. It's so close to actually having that opportunity to win that international title. It felt like coming into this, they had the momentum. And it is just completely gone now. This will be their last side selection game of the series, regardless what happens. So we have the Pantheon gone. Nico's gone here. Skarner banned again. We'll see what that first pick is going to be with the Rise here. Yeah. Talia, I feel like, is the safest one.
Yeah, it almost feels like bait, right? Banning away the Rise, like, do it. Because if they don't, then it's likely that Chovy will just snap it up.
Yeah, I mean, you can't give Chovy Talia. I mean, in its current form, maybe, because in the scrims, in the games we've seen, like, it doesn't feel like Talia is as dominant as it used to be, but it's a dangerous proposition to give that over to Chovy. And they first picked
That's first
Rel.
pick Rel, yeah.
I mean, they've had struggles.
Fearless bans.
They have had struggles with Engage this game, or this series, rather, I should say. They've really been unable to get onto the back line, and they've been completely outplayed by the mobile Rakan, obviously later on the Bard. So I could feel the frustration, but I just don't know if this priority is warranted, to be totally frank.
It is Kyle, right? Even back when he was in the LCK, when he was debuting, this was his champion. His Rel was absolutely fantastic. Of course, the champion was a little bit different back then, was finding a lot of success in a lot of people's hands, but Kyle was certainly one to find a lot of that magic, as there is a Corki answer. Things are getting weird here in game number 3. It's not necessarily the priority list that I had in my head, but of course you have to do a lot of gymnastics to work out what is there to answer what, and what is the highest on the priority list, as the Nautilus is going to be picked up, as both of these teams really valuing a lot of Engage.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the final pieces of hard Engage from the support role that you can pick up, so they want to get it early on to match the Rel and make sure that they have something. Also makes it a little bit less likely that we see more of those immobile AD carries that can just be locked down from the Nautilus, but there's so much prio still available here in terms of tier list picks, and they give 2 over to AGAL and Talia and Xinjiao.
I'm really disappointed with this Nautilus lock-in, because you could have gotten either the Xinjiao or the Talia instead, and they already locked their support, so it just doesn't really make sense to me. Yes, now you get counter pick for both potentially the jungle or the mid pick here in this third rotation, but it feels like you gave over way too much here as Gen.G in this position. They will take the Wukong that was banned previously in game 2 here, and keep it a little bit flexible. Chovy loves his R5 unusual, pick that comes through. We've seen him play like R5 Cassante mid in the past. We've obviously seen him play things like the Aurelion Soul for supreme scaling, and he's going to keep it a bit of a mystery here. I don't agree with the decision yet for Gen.G, but let's wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, see whether it's his set once again coming out of the mid lane. Don't know whether that is going to be his pick into a Talia, but already we see the Kai'Sa banned away. Corki is something that Chovy has really enjoyed in the past as well, so that might be something that's forward on their minds. But now, the last couple of bans to come through here for AGAL, we'll see what they're fearing the most, as top lane still hasn't been locked in here, and Keen has been on an absolute tear, and I could imagine taking away some of his options could be a good idea, but never mind, will be that Orianna to make sure that Chovy isn't pulling a fast one.
Yeah, always got to be careful about that. Speaking of which, we have seen him play a lot of Corki in the past.
Yeah.
Something he could do in this game. I don't think that's the current meta that you would go for.
You have to consider it.
Carry Corki,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something to consider.
Rick.
Yorick is gone. That makes a lot of sense given how well Flandre played just yesterday on the pick. But
yeah, front line, I'm going to smash your face in, Yorick, is what he was playing.
kind of
team fighting Yorick.
I'm kind of starting to feel like the angles here for Hope are dwindling, right? Because you're not playing Calista in this comp, right? Like, you might just end up with an MF composition here, which is a little bit awkward with the Talia. And Corki's so safe, right? It's hard to actually lock him down. Looks like the Aurora is going to be the flex pick that comes through here for Gen G in this fourth slot, really just keeping everything open.
It's a mega flex. We've got mega flex last pick here for Duro. He's going to lock in like either a top laner, a mid laner, or an AD carry, and we don't know which one it is yet.
We don't know which one it is. I think with Sivir enter priority coming up a lot nowadays, feels like the obvious choice here, especially with what you already have. Sivirel, very strong. You've got the Xinjiao that can lead the charge with your ultimate. And obviously, Spell Shield for the Nautilus. And they're going to look for a frontliner here for the top lane. Renekton can handle if anything gets flexed on him. He's always going to be a very strong laner and obviously a very strong pick in general. So what's the final choice here for Gen G?
See something as simple as an Ornn pick here for Gen G. You know, just absorb the Renekton pressure, scale up for later on. You've got some really strong engage for team fights with the Wukong already. You add the Ornn Horn on top of it, you've got a really strong front line for this Corki. And
Keen isn't talking all that much, so it is looking like maybe that Aurora is going his way. The Ahri last pick is going to be locked in, confirms Ruler is going to be playing the Corki, and we are going to be having that Ahri in the mid lane. Ahri Wukong has been something that we've seen find a fair bit of success, but a lot of magic damage towards the top side of the map, and not a lot of beef. You know, not a lot of beefiness here in this composition. It's going to be mainly Duro on that front line alone, and otherwise just a lot of damage.
Gen G have both a lot of zone control and pick potential because the burst damage of Corki, the Wukong, works well with the Ahri. You could get single target blow up. One spell shield is not enough, unfortunately, for Sivir, I think, to deter all of this aggression. And AGL started off with the Talia pick, but this comp didn't really turn into a single target pick composition. It kind of became a scaling front to back comp that still has Weaver's Wall it can play through. But I think a lot of this game for AGL, a lot of their game plan was to try to get this Renekton ahead and play through it in sides with this Talia. But now the Renekton's melee into the ranged Aurora top side, and it's going to be hard to get that prio there. I feel like Gen G have a pretty big draft edge here in this third game.
Yeah, it's definitely a heavy amount of comfort, which they are able to find here in game number 3. We've loved the Ahri into Talia in the past, and Keen is just in love himself with this Aurora pick. And playing range into melee is just, that's right in Keen's wheelhouse. Feels like he can do anything, especially today. Like, this guy is holding the reins on that MVP. He wants it so badly. Might be able to add some extra points here with this Aurora performance.
Could be. I do think that the Talia is going to get a lot of value in this composition for AL. I think that that was a big risk that was taken by Gen G. And so if this is the turnaround, I don't think that the draft is ill-equipped to deal with what Gen G are doing. I just feel like AJAL today have not been equipped for Gen G. They just haven't been able to stand up to these Titans from the LCK unless they can prove us wrong here in this third game. It is do or die. Their key on the line. And Gen G, as far as the club championship is concerned as well, they can rocket themselves to the top of those standings. Absolutely massive, not only for the League of Legends team, but for the organization as a whole. Because you have to remember, the Esports World Cup is more than just League of Legends. So support's going to be meeting here towards the top side, which is interesting that they both had exactly the same idea at the same time. Maybe just some supportal combat. They agreed. Okay, top alcove. Let's go 1v1.
That recall animation threw me for a loop. I thought perhaps he was going to look for the dredge. I mean, Keen is closer.
Well, he's just gone and gets the ward down. Oh, the last... Yeah, it does get it. Okay, there we go.
Something interesting to point out, we have seen almost all of our supports go for the Unsealed Spellbook, but Duro on the Nautilus, understanding that this champ, if you don't have Aftershock, you just kind of go in and die, has elected not to go for the Unsealed Spellbook. I think that's definitely a good choice, especially into what you're looking at on the opposite side.
Remember the Glacial Augment when it came in the first time? We had so many Nautiluses just explode over and over again.
It both makes you powerful into the types of ways you could get caught, and it's a safe defensive tool into AGL, but it also empowers your engages and your setup for the RE composition that Gen.G are running. So makes a ton of sense. I feel like even though everyone is running Unsealed Spellbook, there are situations where you just have to buck that trend and go, what's good for my champ, what's good for my comp. I'm going to move away from what's overall the meta and focus really in on what this game looks like, what this draft looks like for me.
And it's press the attack Renekton. This is like, we did see a little bit of shenanigans with the Electrocute up against Aurora just because you want to go in for bursty trades. I believe that was Ambessa that did it. This is press the attack Renekton, which with some help from Tarzan, Flandre will be doing a lot of damage. It's Kyle going aggressive, but the Shattering Strike is going to miss here as they hit level 2. Still, Duro gets a lot of use out of his Aftershock as he makes his way out, and Gen.G a little bit late on that level 2 themselves.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I feel like Duro not totally respecting that, but as you mentioned, he wanted to go in for the Aftershock. Took a bunch of damage, still has some potions. Definitely taking a look at that top lane and watching Keen just bully as we did expect. Looks like Tovi's doing a good job in mid at the same time in terms of the health trades so far. Looks like Shanks, though, will be able to get a push and go for a back here. Definitely looking towards Canyon to try to hit level 6 as fast as possible and link up with Tovi. We have seen Gen.G winning a lot of these early games and getting a bunch of tempo and kind of controlling the pace. We've said that a lot today. Well, see if they can do it again.
Bit of aggression absolutely everywhere, but it's Kyle taking the worst end of it. Down to about 250 here as Gen.G stand their ground.
And Duro still is healed. They actually need to be careful about a re-engage. Like Ruler and Duro, if another Gatling gun gets fully channeled like that, you are just out of luck in this lane. As they hit level 3, will be matched. And that's the end of that as Tarzan comes over Ruler and Duro, not knowing where he is, going to play respectfully and back away. And this top lane is a huge issue, though, as Keen just keeps grasp stacking and keeps chunking Flandre out. And this is a prio lane they expected to get, right? That's why you draft Renekton in a comp like this. And it is unfortunately just absolutely not going to work out as Canyon's coming over. Flandre is low, no Fury.
2v1 underneath this turret. We'll see whether Flandre can get enough of his health back. Oh yeah, without the Fury, it's really, really difficult. But he does slice and dice, and that'll get him to safety. Keen didn't want to be the one that tanked up that turret to start things off. But he does get a Demolish proc. That is going to be plate gold. And I don't think it's too bad. Canyon was looking for a back anyway. The full clear was completed. And yeah, Keen is like, no, Flandre, you're not allowed to approach this minion wave.
Yeah, you can see how he stacked the wave so that it would push into him. So it kind of forces Flandre to move up. And he has help from his jungler. Keen going to spot this and just flash away. So that's actually pretty good here for Flandre and Tarzan. They're able to immediately clap back with the...
Yeah, they're going to swap top here, and it's going to be Keen heading down to the bottom lane. He has enough time to get there without TPing, which is huge for him. As, you know, supports join.
Mid lane, yep.
Yeah, supports join here as the lane swaps commence. They don't really need each other. As Kyle going to get charmed.
Yeah, not going to be able to crash down out of this one, actually. And he doesn't have a lot of options remaining. Still not enough damage here between Duro and Chovy at this stage of the game. So he will be able to make his way out and even holds onto the flash. Like, I don't know. Canyon off to the side is looking to take down these Raptors.
I don't know if this aggression is over yet. I think Gen.G can continue to put the pressure on here. Canyon's going to get these Raptors at least, and Kyle's low health bar here is such a problem. And also, we did see Flandre TP top, so TP advantage to Keen right now. Gen.G has so much agency.
Information advantage here as Kyle wasn't actually seen, but another Shattering Strike goes wide. Kyle actually struggling a little bit here in this early game. You can see there are some wobbles that he has to get out. These Shattering Strikes that we're so used to seeing land from this guy just haven't been hitting the mark, as Ruler just really happily going through his history book as far as the teams that he's won titles on. Samsung Galaxy certainly being one of them.
Yeah, the 2017 above that. Shanks now getting chunked out. It feels like, especially if the Ahri is just getting guaranteed charms. That one wasn't a guaranteed charm, but he was just able to land it. But if you got the Nautilus nearby, you have to respect the damage, even with no items here in the early game. And Kyle, unfortunately, was not able to do that. So a lot of tempo did go over to Gen.G in those early trades. Still pretty even, though. I mean, AGAL have their bottom lane down here. You see Tarzan immediately running at the Dragon. Meanwhile, Gen.G, Duro, and Ruler are in the top lane. So trying to get onto Flandre.
Very aggressive from Flandre, who looks for Duro here. Almost finds him as the Dominus has been picked up. Ruler only level 5, but you can see a bit of a gank onto Keen on this bottom side as well. So he gets a fair bit of damage towards Hope. And he says, nice try, and walks back. Sivir has some of the most memorable voice lines, by the way, like the better duck. Oh, so good. So, which is the better duck, by the way? Which one's she talking about?
I want to go back to the game 3 of the game Grand Finals.
I like Duckling.
And talk about Darkwing Duck. Yeah. So the trade here onto Flandre. I mean, he ends up losing all of his health. He doesn't have teleport as another charm connects, and I mean, this is going to be a trade that favors Chovy, but Aurora does have TP. So Keen, yeah, he gets threatened, almost gets taken out, didn't have his flash, but he could just TP back to lane, and at the same time, Gen.G continue to control every other aspect of the map right now. As you can see, Flandre slowly heading back to lane here, and Kyle looking for another angle. Still no flash for Keen.
Yep, Keen gonna have to try and weasel his way out of this one. Does do so with the ulti, and yeah, he's fine. Never you mind, just slip between worlds, ladies and gentlemen. That's your way of escape. And that is why Aurora works on the top side of the map. Or the bottom, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely putting a lot of pressure on Keen, at least. Not making his life very easy, but, you know, with the Sivir, you're not going to have a huge amount of damage unless you're locking down the champion for quite a while. But as you mentioned, it's Aurora, so not really having a fun time of doing exactly that. We're zooming in onto Keen. Can he get all of these minions under the turret?
This is the height of the excitement in this game.
All of them.
Got all of them. All
That's
7.
Insane.
Chovy is going to lose a lot of health here. Not actually landing a charm on this one. This is not the trade he was looking for, but at the end of the day, Gen.G is starting up this Dragon, but because Chovy gets chunked, I think they're just simply going to have to regroup. Grubs are up as well on the top side of the map, so maybe they'll just simply pivot to this and let that Chemtech Drake go.
Might be the way. It looks like the Grubs are going to be the focus on both sides. As Flandre going to lose a plate here towards the top side. Ruler's just making his life difficult. As Duro is hovering, making sure that he keeps his Corki safe. Tarzan will start this up, as AGL definitely with the priority on the Grubs, as we were talking about. Still might be able to make a run for the Drake as well. As you can see, the blue vision, top side and bottom side, very good around these objectives. But Canyon looking to make his way over, wanting to take at least one of these. As Gen.G also looking for the fight. Couldn't quite get the knock up onto Tarzan there. Kuduro as they get into the back line. Canyon found no one with that Cyclone either. It's not exactly the fight that Gen.G were looking for, but still, they take first blood. Still, Shanks has to flash over the wall, and still, he's looking to go down as Chovy needs to find the charm. He doesn't quite get it, but still he gets the auto. It's not fair. It feels like it went as well as it could for AL, but finally their kills start to come in, and they even out the trade. Canyon gets some shellfish here off the back end of the fight, and in the end, it was pretty even between the two squads.
And the Cyclone wasn't amazing. A lot of stuff whiffs, and Gen.G, I think, could have had a way better fight had a lot of their big tools actually gone off. But it still ends up being a pretty good turnaround for them because the Grubs went over to AGL. They wanted to get something back. They so desperately needed to get something back here. And now you've generated a pretty significant lead here for Chovy in this game, but it's still pretty close. This is definitely AGL fighting back in a big way. The initial part of the fight, though, is so split for AL.
It's very weird.
Yeah, it definitely was. This was kind of like 3 fights happening all at the same time. Ruler a bit zoned by Flandre. Keep in mind that this is 4-on-4 for most of it until Hope comes up here on the Sivir. So 4-on-4 that Gen.G are winning. They get a bunch of damage on the Shanks, but Shanks, he's got the footwork. He's dodging everything.
Yep, and he's now able to single out Ruler here as well, who just wants to get himself out of here, although he's pretty dangerous. Ooh. Magnet Storm comes in, Seismic Shove, and Ruler is just dead. Didn't have the flash from the previous fight, so So AL gonna finally be able to take down the Corki here, and now looking for a dragon. It feels like the winds are potentially starting to change.
Yeah.
Like maybe there is a bit more in this series.
And for the first time in a while in this series, Tarzan actually finds an opening where Canyon is just not there. He's just not able to actually match the gank there, and there's no cross map, so it's just AL looking for a pick there. Ruler doesn't have flash, is unable to get away from that shove, finally gets taken out. The Sipper rotation comes down as well. I mean, that was just completely under AL's control, and Canyon's just doing his jungle. You know, he can't impact the play. Keen is trying to continue the pressure here on the top side, but Genji get nothing in return. But with the resets, we'll finally, very late into this game, take the first break.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just kind of trading objectives by the end of it all. The 3 grubs that did go over to the Renekton can be a bit of an issue a little bit later on for the side of EGAL. But still a relatively even game. It's kind of going to be the Sivir who's getting out of control, who has a cull, is very ahead on gold, already has a kill and 2 assists. So kind of the ball is in Hope's court in terms of trying to carry for his team. Also, Flandre's actually doing a pretty good job, even though early on in the game, he was definitely struggling against Keen. He was able to come back in a big way. And it's going to be up against Chovy and Canyon, who are the 2 Fed guys for the side of Gen G. It's Ari Wukong. We've seen a lot of duos make it happen in many different regions as Keen continues to be annoying. So it's going to be interesting to see which storyline does play out in this one.
Look at the vision that AGL have on the top side of the map. This is really reminiscent of what we saw from Gen G when they controlled vision on the top side in Game 1. This is the first time in this series we have seen Gen G put on the back foot quite significantly in terms of map control. And it comes down to that play onto Ruler, his second death of the game. Stabilization of Flandre here. It's still a gold lead for Gen G, but they don't actually have full map control. That belongs to AL on the top side right now, and let's see how they utilize things, because they're the ones who also have this global Talia. So this next team fight is going to be really interesting. It's probably not going to happen for a while unless they're able to find a pick angle here, but certainly AGL are in the right position, the right conditions to actually blow this game open on the next fight if they can keep that map control.
Well, Canyon has been taking a lot of crabs. That's what I've seen recently. Otherwise, not too much. As Gen G holding onto a sliver of a gold lead, about 500 in it. Some skill shots flying around. Kyle finally getting his eye in on that Shattering Strike. Will be able to land it onto Duro, and it is inconsequential. So mid lanes and supports hanging out in the top lane. You've got an 80 carry off in mid. Junglers are jungling. And you've got Chovy versus Flandre hanging out there towards the bottom side. Everything feeling pretty even. No one really finding big tempo leads or control of this game as it's ping-ponging waves waiting for the next objective. Speaking of which, that is going to be the Herald. It's going to be up in a minute and a half. See who's going to be able to get some control. It's a gentleman's agreement as far as the wards are concerned. Some deeper vision here on the side of AGAL, but I don't think Gen G are really hurting for control at this stage of the game.
You mentioned the Cull, it's just cashed in. He had the Yuntals way accelerated in this game. You could see he ends up picking up the Zeal as well here. So it has his boots now. He's very powerful. Talking about Hope, of course, in this game has a significant
That got
lead.
them a gold lead.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And, I mean, AGL looking for this next fight here over Herald. They're already grouped up. They already have the better vision on top side. This is where Gen G are going to have to make a really tricky decision. You know, do they TP Keen in, heavily commit, look for the Canyon engage angle? Ruler does have his Triforce here, so it's definitely playable. But this is a really tough fight. This is not going to be Gen G having those wombo combos or just completely dictating the pace of the map, because there's also a Talia on the other side. Shanks can come through here. Unfortunately for AGL, though, they did concede control. Like, they had vision, but they did not actually seize control of the river early, and now Gen G have a contest angle.
Yeah, they definitely have an angle in this one, but it does feel like, you know, with the control that AGL have with their composition, especially the Xin Zhao, it just feels like he can just run into brushes and be totally fine in even game states. It's part of what makes him so strong. I mean, a lot of pressure down on the bottom side as Tarzan is all the way down there.
Yeah.
The Herald is spawning.
Tarzan's just given this up. Like, he's not even anywhere near this. I think for Gen G, they're probably a little bit surprised by that as well. And AL just playing extremely safe, but it's going to potentially cost them big as Canyon has an angle here.
Yeah, AL looking to come in. I think now they're realizing that the Herald has spawned, but it is going to be given up on here by Gen G. They're respecting a whole lot as Tarzan finally does move his way in. Duro going to be their target. As On the Hunt has been popped. Duro trying to get himself out of there, and he will be able to do so. Just using the heal, actually. Still has the flash available. Can go for some cheeky plays with that depth charge if he would like to. Is now Flandre off on his own. Keen moves up as well. 5v5 now a possibility. As a Magnet Storm doesn't quite work, and Keen takes that as an invitation. The hook to connect onto the jungler, and it's looking like a disaster here for AL to start this one off. And they do manage to find, finally, Flandre getting in there. But is it too little, too late? That's the question. As Hope will be able to get himself a kill, and now Ruler trying to get himself out. Man, that was kind of crazy, but it's not going to work there for the AD carrier Gen G, and Hope is looking for Chovy, who's walking around with about 0 HP. Not entirely sure what just happened there, as the back is going to come in here for Flandre, the clone from Canyon, looking to try and save him, but I think the Crocodile is just gonna eat the monkey here, as finally the flash is employed, and Canyon looking to get himself out.
That was a very wild fight. I mean,
that was weird. Who even won?
They threw everything in the kitchen sink at this Nautilus, and Duro's like, yeah, okay, cool story. And we were looking at this like Gen G were going to turn it around in a big way and just sweep the fight. But that was not the case because Flandre just spun on all of them at the end.
Watch Kyle in this moment decide he wants to go in here, gets the Shattering Strike, but then cancels his engage, flashes away, doesn't get on top of Keen. And Chovy and Brewer are able to do a ton of damage, but Flandre being this big and this untouched, getting this massive Q, wins the fight for AL. If he doesn't get there, if he's not able to make that happen, I think Gen G cleaned this one up. Flandre had such a big part to play in this. And with the late Weaver's Wall here, the chase is good on Ruler. The flash was incredible. It was almost an on for him, but it's not quite there. That was a great salvage, though, by Flandre, because otherwise, this game might have just ended, this finals might have ended, but the Renekton comes up big. Massive team fight damage, almost 4,000 in the fight.
That's that buffed Dominus, baby. It is absolutely insane. This is just a tale of two top laners here in this series.
Yeah, it really is. In the series entirely. Like Flandre getting the Sony MVPs the last couple of days and Keen trying to get it today. But what's going to happen? We got another brawl brewing.
Yeah, second Drake on the line here for Gen G, but it is going to be a full 5v5 as the Magnet Storm is decent, but the Cyclone is looking better. That is Tarzan getting the Dragon, but oh god, the ricochets from Hope. Keen getting cut down. Ruler suffering the same fate, and Chovy is the last man standing. Shanks looking to put him down as it's a double here for the Croc. Oh my god, Gen G just fall apart at the seams. Okay, Charm not going to quite connect there, but Flandre moves in, wants to give the kill over to Shanks. Good guy, Flandre. It's been the same way, I swear, since 2015 when he was on Snake. He's just a good guy.
Bit of a whiff on this one for Gen G, though. That's going to be the mid turret going down on top of the Dragon, and it looks like we might be heading towards a series here in our grand finals with a near 3,000 gold lead now for Hope, but it's so much ricochet damage in that fight. Could take that turret, could take the Herald here very late, but they will secure it, and AGL are fully in the driver's seat now.
Yeah, it does feel like this time around, Gen G trying to scramble to fight for this Drake, but this time, Kyle gets that great engage, and you see that the follow-up is right there. Flandre is unkillable. The Ruler doesn't do any damage at this point, and yeah, he gets kind of bullied as well by Flandre, and just breaks up the entire fight. They crash down straight into that banana brush and take control of the fight.
The angle, too, at which AL had that Dragon, where they just held it. They're like, yeah, no, you're on smite range Canyon. Canyon all-ins towards it, goes for his Warrior's Trickster, gets on top of the Dragon, but it's not in smite range, so they just wait and take him out. And then Flandre gets in, and it's just super easy. Gen G used all their tools to try to secure the objective, and were unsuccessful, and then didn't have anything left for the fight.
And now it is looking like a very uncomfortable position for the team that did have match point 4-0 for
that gold diff.
Like, that is absolute insanity. And yep, that last fight, that's what did it. A massive influx of gold. Flandre now able to knock down this outer turret. That is only going to continue that aggression here for AGAL, as 2 turrets off the back end of that team fight as well here for AL just means that they have skyrocketed into the lead. Now it's moving towards 5,000 after that top lane turret went down. Now Otacon is going to spawn. A possible way back in for Gen G if they can find something heroic, but also a way to really put the nails in the coffin here for AL. They can get control of that Otacon and get that big buff.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy just thinking about all the great top laners we have at this tournament and how it does feel like it's coming down to a head-to-head between top laners in this best of 5. And it's crazy because Hope is the most fed guy on the Rift. We're not even, you were talking about his damage and his ricochet damage and all that, but he doesn't feel like the main character at this point. Gen G looking for a dive here on a Shanks.
Even committing Chovy's TP, they have to get this, and they will.
They certainly will be able to kill Shanks, but at what cost is the question, because the Otacon, as we said, spawn towards the top side, and they don't have it. They have one teleport.
So they're going to get the bottom inner turret as well. At least that's the assumption here with Keen and Chovy holding this push here. As AGL are going to take the backs here, it's going to be a slower Otacon. I like this decisive call. Is it a trade up? At this point, with a relatively low pedal count, I think it's okay here for Gen G. It's not what they wanted, but I think making the call to say, look, we don't have any topside control. They're leaving this vulnerable member under a low health turret bottom side. Let's all in on the bottom side, look for that turret instead. Double turrets go over. Gen G shore up some of that gold deficit. They've now cut it nearly in half. This is the best choice they could have made given the circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. It does still mean that AGAL are very much in a commanding lead at this point. They're going to get a bunch of those pedals up to 25, and it's another crucial time in this game. We haven't talked too much about the dragons, but looking to get that next dragon, it is Mountain Soul, and then, of course, the Baron spawn in 3 minutes. It does feel like AGAL have total control over the map. There are a couple of wards that were just placed down here from Gen G, so they should be able to clear those out, but yeah, I don't really feel like Chovy and Canyon have an angle to carry this game. It just feels like the Flandre show in game number 3.
Yep. Looking a little bit rough here as well. I mean, a lot of the focus here from Gen G is on the things that they can get, right? Killing Shanks, certainly one of those options. But right now, Shanks is like a 0 damage Kalia. He is not part of the equation when it comes to what's dangerous.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's the setup. He's the setup to potentially get picks, but then Flandre is the one who really gets into the back line and keeps Ruler from dueling with the Talia, keeps him from touching Hope, right? And the ways in which Gen G have to come back in this game, the margins are so thin. But again, they cut down that gold lead massively. And they have to just kind of sit back defensively here for a while in this game and clear waves because they're playing into this Sivir. So the fact they were able to find 2 turrets is like the best case scenario, I feel, for them. And now they're going to have the better group here on this Dragon. We do have a rotating Talia here. Shanks is coming down. He has that Weaver's Wall. Renekton's on the flank here. A tough fight for Gen G to win, but they're going to stick the Drake.
Yeah, Flandre looking for that flank angle. They do have control vision. He does walk on in as Duro is waiting for him. Hook is going to connect max range here as they're looking to blow him up before anything's even started, and they do manage to find it. Kyle gets a Magnustorm, but there is no one there to follow up. And now Keen is going to get thrown back, but it doesn't even matter. The Dragon goes over to Gen G, and AL, they're just stun-locked here by a Gen G that have discovered how to teamfight with this composition. Shanks and Hope are still there. They can offer some damage back. Duro's going down exceptionally low, and Hope still has those ricochets. Maybe I spoke too soon as Chovy at full health is looking for the targets as Ruler will finally find one back. But these rocks are on the floor, and Shanks is controlling the fight. The flash in from Keen is not going to work. Chovy's sidesteps need to be immaculate, and there's the flash forward, the boomerang for the double tap onto Ruler, and Hope is holding on to this game for AL.
Holding on indeed. Such an incredible end to that fight for the side of AGAL. I mean, that was looking all Gen G. They shut down the one guy we were talking about all game in Flandre. They take him out immediately. They use their burst damage, their pick potential excellently, and then AGAL just barely able to eke it out towards the end of this fight.
This is such an incredible call to drop Dragon and go on to Flandre, even though he's going to get a massive Q. There's just too much CC. The CC chain is there. Like you mentioned, Atlas, Kyle can't really set up for any follow-up here. They get the Dragon as well. And from here, you could be happy to just walk away, but they want to get the wipe and get more. And this is when the outplays start to come through. Shanks' flash here, beautiful against Chovy. Tarzan is able to absorb so much pressure. Duro falls low, right? Canyon is 100% dead. Tarzan flashes for the kill. And then from here, you could still just kind of kite your way out. But look for the outplays. Keen flashes and whiffs here. And then, you know, at this point, you're just trying to force. Ruler has to flash his way well, but that whip from Keen is so important, and they just will not concede the point. The greed here from Gen G is insane. They skill check AL, and they lose.
Yeah, Ruler not too happy about that one either, and I can understand some of the stunned faces from the crowd because, I mean, as a play-by-play, you often get into your mind what the vibe of a team fight, right, and who's winning and stuff like that. I got it wrong, you know? Gen G were dominating, but then it was actually a win for AL in the very end. As you can see, Hope is still so incredibly far ahead. 6-0-5, 3 items on the Sivir, and now Gen G kind of reeling. It is still only a 2.3k gold lead at 25.5 minutes. That's borderline meaningless, but there's Artican on top of it, which is only getting more and more valuable as it is only AGAL that's going to be getting petals from this point on. And there's a lot of these intangibles that they have been able to take control of. But Gen G do at least have some dragons that are starting to stack up.
Yeah, they get that second dragon. That's a big part of that last fight, actually, that they were able to pick up the one. Take a look at the XP and the levels. It's actually Hope on top. It's all those kills, all those assists. He's got the max bounty on him right now. And yeah, I mean, Gen G, it was a good read to say, okay, AG, they love to go for these flanks. They love to come from so many different angles. Finn was talking about it all tournament long on the desk, and they do. They're fantastic at setting up the team fights, but Gen G were able to get ahead of it, and it just, you know, they were able to do that, but they don't have a real answer for Hope. Like we saw in that last fight, Duro was able to hook on him, but it just got spell shielded. They don't have that hard engage onto the Sivir, who is basically untouchable at this point.
They used everything on the Renekton, and then Hope just didn't whiff, man. He didn't mess it up. He played so carefully. He was the last to flash to secure the kill, right? He was not playing defensively. He was playing defensively. He was not playing aggressively until he knew he had the guarantee, as there's a pick potential on the Canyon.
Yeah, Shove does come on through there as Canyon looking to try and make his way out. The Magnet Storm doesn't quite do it, but still, the wall is going to come down, and AL are looking for their targets. The Crescent Guard going to go in, but AL not quite able to get their teeth all the way in, but still, they push them out, and now they're going to look for a Baron angle.
They have double control vision here on the approach to the Baron. Gen G are going to instantly TP back in, but I just don't know if a contest is possible. Canyon has no flash. It's coming soon, but I think they're just simply going to have to give this up, which feels horrible because the Dragon is 45 seconds away. They're not going to be able to trade objectives here. They just kind of have to sit back and let AL have it.
Yeah, in terms of trades, I mean, the health trade was huge. They got a lot of summoners down as well, just trying to push them out of the jungle and essentially make it so there would be no contest. And that's exactly what AL did fantastically in that last fight. And the timing of this is great because they can just regroup, buy their items, and go straight to the Mountain Drake and really try to solidify that lead. It's still in touching distance for Gen G, but you're really beginning to see it float away in the hands of AGAL here.
Yep, 2 inner turrets left on the map here. So AGAL, after this Drake is secured, can head up there, grab that extra bit of money. That could really break the camel's back, as we like to say. AL just going to start this one, and Gen G have no interest in contesting this whatsoever. Minion waves are going to be the priority to make sure that this Baron gets as little value as possible.
Some of the things I think we have to really be tracking and watching now here for Gen G's potential miracle comeback in this game are Canyon's flash, Chovy's flash. Like, how do they get past the front line? How do they get past Flandre, get a spell shield out of Hope and kill him, you know? And there's no teleport wards, really. Like, there's one that's very far away from the AL push here that you could try to go for as Chovy, but it's so risky, it's so greedy. This feels like it's all but over here in this game 3.
The flash forward on top of Keen. They saw that stealth was on cooldown. He tries to get himself out, but Hope, he had the Beyblades in the air, and he's able to take down the Aurora. Chovy flashing away, doesn't get the charm, and Hope is just a freight train. And these Nexus turrets are under fire. AL, they are not interested in the rest of the base. They just want to take down this Nexus and look for a second to try and bring us to some silver scrapes. Gen G will put up a bit of a fight, but it's a flash away from Ruler, and that will expose the last Nexus turret here as AGAL, they are not out of this without a fight. This game 3 was all theirs, and this series just got interesting.
We finally have a series on our hands. AGAL finally woke up here at the SDC Arena. Wonderful stuff to see. It was a close game, but you, again, just like when Gen.G were leading, this time it was AGAL were leading, and you could feel it the whole way through.
And Hope getting such a lead, playing with such confidence in that skill check from Gen.G. That was the defining moment in the game when he and Shanks were able to outplay. After what was a great collapse here onto Flandre, Gen.G get the dragon, but then get incredibly greedy, and AL hang on through what was a rocky mid-game. They had a huge lead, Gen.G fought back, but this moment here is what sends them to that fourth game. Incredible resilience.
Absolutely incredible stuff here from AL, and for the last couple of games, felt like maybe they hadn't shown up today, but instead they were fashionably late to make sure that they give us as much drama as possible. Now we're going to go to a short break. When we get back, we'll prepare for that game number 4.
I started playing the game seriously at around season 6, and jungle was the strongest role at the time. Feels good to be better than your opponents.
그때 제가 정글러를 했었을 때 가장 티어가 높게 나왔어가지고 그 길을 좀 갔었던 것 같습니다.
I hated jungle players, so I just became one. Desperation, I think. You just get flamed for everyone's mistake. Like you're just escape bullet to everyone.
因为打野位置就很好玩吧，就跟队友配合也是一个很好的玩的地方吧。感觉就队友的优点
，you can make a lot of creative plays, play around vision really well. So I think that's one of the specialties of jungle.
If you're not where you have to be, can really make the map harder to play.
그래서 그냥 제 자신을 믿고 그냥 제 플레이를 하는 것 같습니다.
You should generally know like how to play the map, what you want your teammates to do, not just what you want to do.
정글러가 맡는 책임 같은 경우에는 아무래도 이제 오브젝트 관련해서는 정글이 관련이 제일 많다 보니까 그런 부분들에 있어서 책임감을 가지고 또 오더도 내리고 약간 그런 게 중요하지 않을까 싶습니다.
Until then, it's your responsibility.
Reach your impossible. Lenovo Legion.
Being a top laner means that you need to be adaptable in the way you play the game, whether you are a carry or a tank.
You have a really big part on the game.
我觉得上单选手就需要一种不服输的特质吧，不管遇到再强的对手，都要想去战胜他。
My favorite highlight moment in my career is the one and only Pentakill I've had, which was actually against G2 as well, with Darius.
This MSI, when I soloed killed Broken Blade on Aatrox vs Warwick, it was pretty fun, not gonna lie.
职业生涯中印象最深刻的瞬间，我觉得应该是去年决赛世界赛决赛，就是那5局吧。我觉得那个 build 就是让我印象比较深刻。我喜欢上单位置的一个原因，就是因为这个位置是1打1的位置，我就比较喜欢单挑，所以我会很喜欢玩上单。
So I used to be a Riven Watcher.
I really like the design of the chambers of top lane, like really tough guys.
The champions I've excelled on in my role are Ornn, Cassante, that are both playmakers and also are like you need mechanics to play them.
Ambessa, Renekton, Gwen is the type of champions that I like the most.
我认为我的招牌英雄就是青钢影武器、剑姬，因为这些都是我刚开始出道的时候就很喜欢玩的英雄，到现在一直都是保持着比较高的熟练度。
To play as a top laner, you need to have a lot of game knowledge about the wave state and trading patterns.
Knows how to put yourself in the game, and that's a little bit hard.
我觉得最重要的就是要赢得单挑的胜利，就是要把1打1给做好。
So let's go a little. I grabbed another AGAL fan. Welcome， 欢迎。请问你是 AGAL 的哪位选手的粉丝呢？
我是香克斯选手的粉丝。我非常支持香克斯选手，很欣赏他能在国际大赛的舞台上有这样精彩的发挥。
I've been a Shanks fan for a very long time, and I'm very glad that I'm able to see him to shine on the big stages. 那请问你是从哪里飞过来的，或者你是从哪里过来看比赛的呢？ Where did you come from to watch today's Best of 5?
我就是在利雅得当地工作，直接就过来观看 AL 那个的比赛的。
I work from Riyadh, so luckily I was able to catch an AGAL fan. 那请问你有没有什么想跟香克斯想说的话呢？ Do you have anything that you want to say to Shanks?
我想对香克斯选手说，香克斯选手加油，一定要把今天的比赛拿下。
加油 ！Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Esports World Cup as AGAL start firing off on all cylinders, get themselves a hard-earned victory over Gen G in game number 3, much to the chagrin of the Gen G fans. The gamers have showed up, and all of them are finally gaming. Welcome back to the studio. Degon here alongside Finn and Meteos after that last one. And again, you're thinking, okay, AGL have this, but then some of these fights start to get close. Gen G may be making a miracle comeback here, but not to be. They were denied. A great job by AGAL, the defending LPL champions, to close the door and force a game number 4 here, Meteos.
Yeah, this was a sick game. I knew AGAL had something left in the tank.
Yeah,
I didn't want to accept a 3-0 for Gen G. And it was really Flandre who pulled it out. He was playing his Renekton against Aurora, which, you know, playing against range tops can be pretty tough, but he just managed to have so many good team fights and, you know, just got his team a lot of advantages in that part.
When in doubt, LPL Renekton, baby. I mean, I like the fact that they kind of went back to this really skirmish-heavy style. They had the Xin Shao Renekton Talia, which is just like, you take any fight, and as long as it's in the river, you're kind of winning it, because Talia will come in, and some really good engagers. I really liked Kael stepping up this game. I feel like he always went in really deep and locked down the key targets every single team fight, and it felt like AGL was more synced this game. They were more willing to just... When Gen G starts to set up, they were attacking them. They didn't really attack them after Gen G had it all set up. They were trying to beat them to the punch, and I think that's what you have to do against Gen G. If you let them play their game, let them get their vision lines and control the river as they always do, that's when the fight becomes impossible. So you gotta fight them before that happens.
I thought AJAL's bot lane also had a really, really good game. I thought Hope was super impressive on the Sivir, especially in the lane swap where they were 1v2 up against Aurora. They were managing to like chunk Keen out, force him to use his ultimate, just prevent him from farming comfortably. And yeah, I just thought they found really good angles to get on him.
Yeah, I feel like this is a player that we didn't really talk about too much in the build-up. Hope has been consistent and now standing out up against Ruler. Ruler had a couple of opportunities on the Corki to try and make some plays, but the spacing, holding on to his summoners very, very well on a Sivir who's not mobile, right? You pop the ult, you can run fast, but no dashes there. Hope came up huge here in this game as we take a look at some of the highlights from that game number 3. We start off on the top side of the map at Grubs early on.
Yeah, here Nautilus gets caught a little bit out of position. He walks up and tries to find an engage, but here you see why Kyle just played so well. He went first. Before Duro got into engage angle, Kyle just went and forced him and made it a little bit awkward to fight. And this fight was really volatile. A lot of things going right for the Renekton here. He just gets all the right angles and ends up being a solid fight for AL.
I mean, that was for their Renekton show through and through. He just, it looked really bad for AGL in the beginning. I think Keen kind of just solo ulted the support, which wasn't ideal, but Renekton just being patient and then finding that window to get so much damage on everybody and just swing the fight was really good.
Yeah, next one here over at the Drake fight. We're talking about Keen being MVP frontrunner. Don't forget about the guy that's won it the last couple days in Flandre.
Yeah, if the last fight was the Renekton show, this was the Renekton masterclass. He went so deep, getting the stride breaker on so many people, and he was just such a behemoth in these fights, chasing this Corki and just really attacking the backline. This was the team fighting that I wanted to see from AJL. These different angles, these dive comps that just really separates the fights and kind of gets Genji in their structure to separate.
Yeah, and you were waiting for Chovy to kind of pop off in that one. That, I mean, when you're the Ahri, it's that kind of mid-game fight. If you haven't gotten the picks in the side lanes yet, now's that opportunity. Misses the first charm, and then Flandre doesn't hesitate, gets on the back line, and decimates there. And then our final fight that we have here was one of the best ones where Genji looked like they were going to turn the tide at the Drake yet again. You blow up Flandre, you don't have to deal with the Renekton, and then they bite off a little more that they could chew, Medios.
I thought this was a great look by Duro, recognizing that AL wanted to flank and just hitting that max range Nautilus Q. I think everybody's been hit by a Q that they didn't think they should be, and they were just able to quickly kill Renekton, which should be, you know, winning for them. But I think the rest of AGL really stepped up, especially Hope. You know, it's not easy to play these fights as Sivir. Sometimes there's a lot of threats. You're pretty low range, but you know, this fight was just so down to the wire. You know, everybody's about one shot, and then he just gets off as much damage as he can and then finds Ruler with a really insane key flash at the end here.
Just beautiful
barely
here
with his hip.
Can we get into slow motion? Can we? Oh, amazing. Such a good fight from Hope there, and really stepping up, because I think when you look at his AJL roster, this is one of the guys you don't really talk about that much. I feel like he's going under the radar a lot because Tarzan, Flandre, Shanks, even Kale, I think is overshadowing it a little bit, but you gotta remember, this guy's worked his way back. He had a 2023 run with JDG where he kind of disappointed and worked all throughout 2024 and now stands on the grandest stage now in 2025, and I think you gotta say, he's earned his flowers.
Yeah, he is definitely pulled them back on in on the Sivir. The placement was great. Also, just great to see life back in some of those guys that we know that can be so good for AGAL. They need them there to go ahead and come up huge as we take a look at the stage now for the keys.
I'm in front of the Key Crusher here before this finals concludes, and I've got all the broken keys here from the tournament. Here at EWC for League of Legends, these broken keys will be put into the Champions Trophy. 3 of them to be precise. What are they going to do? Are they going to bring up their region, or are they going to put the opponents that they crushed along the way? The question is there, but I can't wait to see which ones are chosen to implement forever.
Thank you very much, Asterix. Again, remember, you get to pick 3. The rest go into the resin underneath the totem for the whole year. So a very, very unique portion of the EWC format. However, you got to get the win. Genji still 1 win away, but AL able to claw back here. What do you think is going to happen, Finn?
I'm a sucker for Silver Scrapes. I really hope we get 5 games today. I really hope AGAL climbs back, and I hope they can show why the LPL can still compete with the LCK at the highest level.
Medios.
I agree. I would like to see Silver Scrapes. I think AGAL proves that it's not going to be as one-sided as it seemed like it was going to be, and I think they got one more in them.
It's not an easy feat to win the LPL. AGAL has done that. Now they're looking to get themselves into a Game 5 to force the opportunity against Gen G, who are looking to close on out. The #1 seed from the LCK, the reigning back-to-back MSI champions, trying to become EWC title winners. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's see whether the dream remains alive here in Game 4 as Blue Side has been chosen from Gen G. That will continue. A bit of an uphill battle here for AGAL, but still momentum is so important. Reverse sweeps happen because of that winning mentality that can seep in, and AGAL looked so much better in the last game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is exactly what we wanted, right? A series on our hands, AGAL making their way back in, and I'm very excited. A lot of our deskers here, they're feeling the hype, you know, the comeback potential, as Chovy looking to meditate a little bit before we do get into game number 4. It's game 4 of a Fearless best of 5. Always going to be fun as we get down to the wire. I'm always most interested to see if these teams and these coaches can really create a comprehensive 5 versus 5 composition. It's not always easy when so much is banned away.
We mentioned earlier in the Game 3 draft that it would be the last time that AGAL has side selection. Gen G will have it now here for Blue Side into Game 4. So they get that first pick priority. The Rise is the mid laner now with the Talia gone, the Azir gone, Galio, Ahri, right? Annie gone. So Orianna's still decently strong, but the Nocturne has already been lost to Fearless Span as well. And things are going to get pretty interesting here. I think Chovy's going to showcase how wide his champion pool is for the remainder of this series.
I would agree. The Skarner has been a really big one for Canyon as well, so that one is going to be taken away. Has been on the ban list so far in this series. As we get into the picks, what is that coveted first pick going to be? That is the question, especially now with so many champions. 30 have been Fearless banned and 6 just banned. Right now in this game, a lot missing Victor. As the Victor is going to be chosen as the creme de la creme here for Gen G.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf was just talking about all the mid laners and how this pool is being chunked down quite a bit. I mean, every pool is, but certainly the top tier mid laners are where you're going to look. Shank's definitely having a great series so far, but also Chovy is, they're not the main characters, but definitely incredibly important. And, you know, Orianna, Nocturne taken away. Victor feels like the standalone best mid laner you would go for. I thought maybe with a couple more jungle bans, you would take a jungle pick here for Canyon first, but instead they prioritized for Chovy. Looking at the Orianna here for Shanks makes a lot of sense if we're just going down the tier list, but we'll have to see what it goes with.
The question, yeah, becomes what's the ball carrier here? You know, we've seen a lot of creative attempts with even stuff like Nefiri with this Orianna, but the main one in the Nocturne is gone, so Jarvan is also banned, and they're looking to set up Shockwave bullet time combos. Like, that's kind of the desperation we're reaching into here in terms of setting up for dealing with this Victor scaling later on. But this feels very straightforward, very face up here for AGAL. There's a ton more flexibility in just having a first pick Victor that's going to scale well no matter what. You could play the Ornn still. The ornaments are going to empower Chovy. You could play a slower front to back comp and just try to avoid those combos. That may be the name of the game here. Just grab Ornn and a safe jungle pick and sit back and try to outscale.
I also don't mind the just lock Sejuani Jax or Sejuani something that does a lot of damage and just play for side lanes. That's exactly what they're going to do, at least theoretically, with this Jace pickup, which hasn't seen as much success as it has in the past. As Brendan, you're looking a little bit quizzical right now.
Yeah, I just don't think that Jace is in a good spot right now. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage. They already have the shielding from the Orianna.
Oh,
they're going to grab
so
a Poppy
good
for the front line as well. It just feels like, you know, you mentioned the Jax. I feel like that could have been good, especially with so much taken off the board in terms of something that can counter a Jax. They try to get the Jace to give a good laning phase for Keen, but I just don't think it's in a great spot. I'm a big fan of Poppy as well, so I'm on the AGAL draft hype train at the moment.
It does weaken a potential Gwen pick. You know, Gwen is still available, actually, this deep in the series. But you can just say, I'm going to lose Prio, but I want to play a tank into this Jace and absorb that pressure and then be able to empower my comp later on. I don't hate the Jace here, but I do agree with you that it's a little bit weak for what it looked like Gen.G wanted to build with that Victor first pick. We're so low on engage here. Leona's going to be banned away. This is completely unsurprising. I don't think Poppy MF is a lane you're going to expect to see in the bottom lane, although it is technically possible and playable. And we'll see what comes in that last ban spot here for the side of Gen.G as the Lucian is now taken away, the safe Xayah is gone.
Yeah, you got to be looking at stuff like Ezreal now. I mean, Zeri. We're going to be digging pretty deep into the AD carry champion pool. It felt like, you know, with the blind Jace, that Ruler and Duro wanted to kind of know what they were dealing with 100% in the bottom lane before they chose their bottom duo. Might not get a full chance to do that if the support isn't picked here. Looks like Aatrox thought about, but then Gragas, also another good choice here. Gwen being totally ignored for now, but maybe he's just doing a bunch of hovers before he selects it. I feel like Gwen is in a really great spot right now, even into Jace.
I don't like playing Gwen into Jace because of the prio you lose, but I do agree with you that she is going to be more relevant later on. Blitzcrank being the heavy consideration, and Kaya will lock it in. So this is completely blind, by the way. We have no idea what Ruler and Duro are going to be playing, and it's super face up. So saving that counter pick, but they already know what the top laner is. Kind of a weird choice. Almost feels like they weren't sure, and they just made a snap decision.
Yeah, the Blitzcrank is kind of odd when things are certainly still pretty up in the air as far as that bottom lane is going to look like. It also limits the flexibility of this Poppy one step further, right? Because at that point in time, she was being triple flexed in top jungle and support. The Kai'Sa is going to be locked in, though, here for Ruler. Certainly a champion that he made his name on years past. What is Duro going to be pairing alongside it? I also feel like having to get up close and personal against this AGAL composition is a very scary prospect, and there is a Shen to be at least hovered and locked in here for Duro.
I mean, there just really weren't a lot of good options, right? He had to pick something, but I think that Shen is pretty good. You know, you can at least provide a front line. You can still build tanky. You have the ability to dodge a lot of at least the damage from the MF a bit. Not the best choice, but again, not a lot of options.
If you go for that full crit build for the Kai'Sa and you have the shields to come through from the Shen plus her shield from her ultimate, it feels pretty decent. As we're going to lock in Cho'Gath as the final pick here for the side of AGAL. Pretty weird one here, especially into the Jace, normally used as a anti-tank counter pick. It is also going to be very difficult to disrupt what Gen.G are trying to do in this draft because they have so much range. Now that the Cho'Gath is shown, maybe you actually have the argument to go for that more AP mixed build here for Ruler and just Jace and Kai'Sa poke away from this comp because they need to combo the MF to really do damage. You can just kind of keep this composition at bay. I gotta say, of the drafts we've seen in this series, these are by far the weirdest and the ones that lack the most cohesion.
Yeah, it's a pretty strange situation. There is like, I don't know, microclasms of like things that work well together, like the Killer Instinct plus Stand United, right? That's a big shield on a Kai'Sa. That's cool. You bring your help with you, right? If you can actually, get some plasma on someone. So that is going to be an opportunity. But otherwise, I'm feeling like elsewise, it's a weird draft here from Gen.G outside of being able to outrange a bit with the Wombo combo to come in on the other side. And I just feel like Poppy wasn't remembered by Gen.G. That champion is way too strong to be getting through once we've gotten here to game 4, and I think has so much power to deny Arctic Assault to make sure that people cannot get out. And Killer Instinct is a lot harder to utilize when the Poppy gets on top of you. So Tarzan going to be absolutely huge in this game.